Hello and welcome back to another Parry This History video. Today we're continuing our series of American heroes, or well-known historically important Americans, or whatever you may want to call this series, because, you know, your definition of hero may be different from mine, but I've just been picking out important Americans that people may or may not know about. They may have heard about the names, but they just might not know much about them. So today's topic is going to be Susan B. Anthony. Ideally, most people will be familiar with her, as she is a very important and influential historical figure in American politics mostly, but, you know, other contributions as well, and we're going to be going through a rather brief but still detailed and informative biography of her. So, if that's what you're looking for, sit back and relax, because it's coming. Susan Brownell Anthony, born on February 15th, 1820 in Adams, Massachusetts, was a pioneering figure in the fight for women's rights and suffrage in the United States. Throughout her life, she dedicated herself to advocating for women's equality, tirelessly campaigning for social and political change. Anthony's unwavering determination and passion made her an instrumental leader in the women's suffrage movement, leaving an indelible mark on history. This biography explores the life, achievements, and enduring legacy of Susan B. Anthony. Early life and influences. Growing up in a Quaker household, Susan B. Anthony was raised with a strong sense of justice and equality. Her parents, Daniel Anthony and Lucy Reed Anthony, instilled in her the values of education, social reform, and gender equality. Anthony's childhood experiences witnessing the inequality faced by women laid the foundation for her lifelong commitment to challenging societal norms. Activism and the fight for women's rights. Susan B. Anthony's activism began in the 1840s when she became involved in the temperance movement, which aimed to combat alcohol abuse. Through her work, Anthony realized that women's lack of legal rights hindered their ability to effect meaningful change. This realization fueled her desire to advocate for women's suffrage and broader equality. The women's suffrage movement. Susan B. Anthony was one of the most prominent figures in the women's suffrage movement in the United States. Her tireless advocacy and leadership played a pivotal role in advancing women's rights and securing the right to vote for women. Here are the key aspects of Susan B. Anthony's involvement in the women's suffrage movement. Anthony devoted her life to the cause of women's suffrage. She co-founded the Women's Loyal National League in 1863, an organization that aimed to advocate for the abolition of slavery and women's suffrage. Later, she became a leading figure in the National Women's Suffrage Association, otherwise known as the NWSA, which she co-founded with Elizabeth Cady Stanton in 1869. Anthony served as the organization's president and worked tirelessly to mobilize women across the country, organizing campaigns and giving speeches to promote suffrage. Anthony played a key role in organizing and participating in women's rights conventions. She was a prominent speaker at the Seneca Falls Convention in 1848, which is considered the birthplace of the women's suffrage movement. Anthony delivered a speech calling for women's rights to vote, highlighting the fundamental inequality women faced in society. She continued to participate in and help organize subsequent women's rights conventions, using these platforms to raise awareness and rally support for suffrage. Anthony traveled extensively, delivering countless speeches and lectures across the country. Her powerful oratory skills and ability to articulate the case for women's suffrage helped to garner public support for the cause. Additionally, she co-edited and published The Revolution, a weekly women's rights newspaper, which provided a platform for discussing suffrage and other women's rights issues. Anthony formed strategic alliances with other suffragists, notably Elizabeth Cady Stanton. The two women worked closely together for several decades, complementing each other's skills and advocating for women's rights. They co-authored speeches and publications, undertook lecture tours together, and played key roles in organizing suffrage events. Their collaboration strengthened the suffrage movement and helped to bring about important legislative changes. Anthony believed in challenging laws that denied women their rights. In 1872, she cast a vote in the presidential election, intentionally violating laws that limited suffrage to men. She was arrested and put on trial, which became a significant event in the suffrage movement. Although Anthony was convicted, she used the trial as an opportunity to bring attention to the cause and advocate for women's rights to vote. Susan B. Anthony's contributions to the women's suffrage movement were instrumental in paving the way for the eventual ratification of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution in 1920, which granted women the right to vote. Although Anthony did not live to see this accomplishment, her lifelong dedication and unwavering commitment to equality and justice laid the foundation for the suffrage movement's success. Challenges and opposition. Anthony faced numerous challenges and opposition during her activism. She encountered strong resistance from conservative groups, political opponents, and even some women who believed that the pursuit of suffrage was inappropriate. Anthony's unwavering determination determination to fight against inequality and oppression propelled her forward regardless of the obstacles that she faced, including, as we already discussed, being arrested for voting. The right to vote. One of Susan B. Anthony's most significant contributions was her relentless fight for women's rights to vote. In 1872, she made headlines by illegally casting a ballot in the presidential election, intentionally challenging the laws that denied women's suffrage. Her arrest and subsequent trial attracted national attention and further highlighted the unjust treatment of women in American society. This event most likely causing more good for the cause than harm, despite the negative headline. Later years and legacy. As Anthony aged, her commitment to the cause only grew stronger. She dedicated her later years to tirelessly advocating for suffrage, delivering countless speeches and organizing rallies. Despite failing health, she never wavered in her conviction that women's voices deserved to be heard. Susan B. Anthony's impact on society. Susan B. Anthony's tireless efforts and unwavering determination paved the way for significant advancements in women's rights. Although she did not live to witness the ratification of the 19th Amendment, which granted women the right to vote, her contributions were instrumental in achieving this landmark victory. Her legacy extends far beyond suffrage, as her work laid the foundations for subsequent generations of women's rights activity. Susan B. Anthony's life and legacy serve as a testament to the power of individual determination and advocacy. Through her tireless efforts and unwavering belief in equality, she helped transform the status of women in American society. Susan B. Anthony's legacy endures as a symbol of courage, tenacity, and the pursuit of justice. Her contributions to the women's suffrage movement and broader fight for gender equality will forever be remembered and celebrated.